So this story I find endlessly fascinating here. Ron DeSantis signed a bill that restricts certain foreigners from buying property in Florida. Okay? Let me walk you through this, and then I'll give you my potentially hot take at the end here. Although, I don't know. I feel like every take I have is common sense. So I can't foresee anything but agreement. But there is that little thing in the back of my head that's like, no, there are going to be plenty of people who disagree. Okay, so here's what they say in Axios. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed legislation Monday that prevents certain foreign nationals from China and 6 other countries from purchasing what the state deems sensitive American land. DeSantis, a potential 2024 presidential contender, proposed several of the law's provisions in September. The legislation could bolster his standing among conservatives who support anti-China measures. Critics warn the law will discriminate against Chinese home seekers in Florida and impact a much wider immigrant population. In addition to China, the law will also prohibit citizens from Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, and Syria from buying farmland or any property within 10 miles of a military installation, a seaport, or an airport. People from China who aren't U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents will be barred from owning Florida property altogether. Anyone knowingly selling land in violation of the new regulations is liable to civil and criminal penalties. The legislation also creates a mechanism for the property to be forfeited to the state. Okay, and so here's a quote. "We want to make sure that our agricultural land is not compromised by the Communist Chinese Party," DeSantis said in a news conference on Monday. The law also ensures that Florida's seaports, airports, power plants, telecom systems, and other critical infrastructure will not be compromised by the CCP or any foreign adversary. So look, first of all, I have no idea if this is legal at the federal level. I have no idea if this is going to be constitutional. This might be challenged in court, and it's very possible that it gets slapped down. So I think it's a little bit of a gray area in terms of what's actually going to end up happening with this. But in terms of how they crafted the law, it's just very weird that you go, okay, China, Chinese citizens who are not already dual citizens are banned from purchasing land anywhere in Florida. But then the other countries on the list, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, and Syria, they're only limited from buying farmland or property within 10 miles of a military base, seaport, or airport. So it's very strange. Like, so why a ban for Chinese citizens in all of Florida, but not a ban for North Korean citizens, Iranian citizens, Russian citizens, Syrian citizens in all of Florida? Like, why the extra level for China? So I find that very weird. And honestly, if I'm telling you the truth, my instinct here is I don't think this is going to actually be upheld. I think some court is going to strike it down because it just seems like this is very clearly not, the law is not being applied equally. It's slapped together in a very haphazard and discriminatory way. The discrimination is almost the point of the bill. But look, I said I had a hot take, and I'm ready to drop my hot take on y'all right now. So there's a story coming out of Arizona, and we've talked about it on the show. Others have talked about it as well. And basically what's happening is Saudi Arabia is buying up a whole bunch of stuff in Arizona, and they're basically like taking the groundwater from Arizona and using it for themselves. This is what Saudi Arabia did. And a lot of citizens in Arizona are like, well, hey man, we kind of need that water. Why did you just sell the land to Saudi Arabia? And so when I look at that, I think, yeah, that was definitely a corrupt backroom deal. Who knows what officials are getting paid how much money in order to facilitate the idea that Saudi Arabia should take groundwater from Arizona, right? And you know, this is the western portion, southwest of the United States. They're drought prone. And so, yeah, I look at that and I go, that shouldn't be allowed. That's crazy. So when I look at this Ron DeSantis law, honestly, the way he did it, I think is stupid. But if he were to actually propose a law that says, American citizens are first in line, they get precedence when buying property. Or, I mean, yeah, again, I don't know if this would stand up to a test in court, but if you just said all foreigners, as long as they're not, working here or have dual citizenship with us and somewhere else, or all foreigners, sorry, but, we have 500,000 homeless Americans, 600,000 homeless Americans here. We got crisis of our own. And so all this territory goes to Americans. I would have no problem with that law. if it was like reasonable in how it was crafted and, you know, basically prioritized Americans and didn't like sell out our interests, I think that would be phenomenal. But that's not what this is. And look, my guess is the real reason behind this bill is to increase the anti-China fear-mongering, try to be like, hey man, see, I'm tough on China. I really stand up to the Communist Chinese Party. And also, yeah, he specifically picked out like official U.S. baddie states. Russia, Iran, North Korea. First of all, North Korean citizens are not trying to buy property in Florida. Let's keep it real. That's just not happening. But like, by the way, he had Cuba on this list. I got news for you. If you said Cubans can't buy property in Florida, and he only did within 10 miles of military base, but if you said Cubans can't do it, I got news for you. There's a lot of Cubans in Florida who are very conservative, and that would definitely piss them off. But you'll notice you don't see on this list Saudi Arabia. You don't see any of our allies. Israelis aren't on this list, right? And so I think that's the issue with it. I'm not against the idea, but you would have to be more equal in your position, and you'd have to like prioritize Americans and say everybody else get in line, or, you know, try to become a citizen before you could actually buy this property. So the idea, is a version of this I could get behind, but clearly the way he did it, it was more of a virtue signal bill. It was more of an anti-China bill. And ultimately, I really don't think this is even going to stand a test in court. So I guess we'll find out, but this is creative. You got to give him that. It is creative. Look, he's press conference at somewhere, and it says, stop the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is all just part of new Cold War rhetoric that they're ramping up with China. And he literally said that, like, oh, forget about Russia. We're done with Russia. But, you know, China's our real enemy. It's like, well, we shouldn't be focused on either one of those things. We should be focused on taking care of, you know, this country here at home. And this does nothing but escalate even further on that front. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.